Good morning. Welcome to the House of Love. I decided that what we would do this morning is just let you see us in our native habitat as we come back together again. I hope you're blessed by being part of this service. Welcome
We can't
home.
hear you.
Okay, I think we are ready, everyone.
We couldn't hear you.
4 minutes out.
I'll get better.
No.
We all getting better. It's getting better.
Someone there.
I'm so excited to be out. So excited to see friends. We have to put a lot of good friends out there. We can also do this service and then other congregations.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Unity of Boerne. It's been a while since we've been here. I tried this last week, it didn't go so good, but to those leaning on the sustained infinite,
Today is big with blessings.
today is big with blessings. All right. So it is so much. A few announcements for you this morning. Did anybody teach you about your wingspan? So this is pretty accurately how tall you are. So this is about 6'2" here. So you should not be able to reach out and touch anybody, except for you two, and everybody that's in the same household. So we are staying 3 feet apart. We are wearing some masks here this morning, and we're doing some other things here, some sanitizing the bathroom and some other things. When you come in, there is some instructions on that. Few things. Book study is going on Sundays at 7 o'clock. Course in Miracles is at 7 o'clock also. I think that's Monday nights. That's Bob Patterson is still doing that.
Yeah.
Meditation is Tuesday at 7. Everything seems to be at 7. Pathlighters, Thursday at 8. Those are all Zoom, okay? So you can go to the websites and pick up the links there. And we'll get back to when we can start having in-person book studies. So, have you noticed, those of you that haven't been here, how actually pretty good everything looks?
Yes.
All right, well, we're going to thank Mr. Jim Luke for taking care of everything. It actually looks better now than it did a year ago. Somehow. So, Jim, thank you. The other person we're going to thank is Tom. Tom's doing some music for us this morning. Thank you, sir. The other thing you need to know is there's no offering, like we're not passing the offering, we're not passing the prayer box. So there's an offering box and there's a prayer box out, just outside the front door. So either on your way in or way out, either way, we'll take prayer boxes or offerings that way. I think I'm done. Does anybody know something that I don't? All right, if not, we're going to do the reading of the daily word.
Good morning, everyone. Great seeing everybody.
Good morning.
As we quietly and gently prepare for the reading of the daily word, we remember that we are in spirit with millions of daily word readers in churches throughout the world. The Christ candle is lit as a reminder of the Spirit of God within all of us, which we call the Christ within. Today's word is grace. In the affirmation, the grace of God is alive in me. I don't need to do anything to earn or deserve the grace of God because it is always present, mine to claim in any situation. Grace dawns in my awareness as soon as I move beyond the limits of my human understanding. I let go and let the peace, love, wisdom, and strength of God fill me, lift me, and guide me. In both the challenging and the ordinary moments of life, the grace I give and the peace and the grace I receive keep the awareness of God in my heart. During a tough conversation, a thought comes to mind that helps reestablish harmony. As I mull an important decision, a fresh insight clarifies my thinking. Feeling overwhelmed by my to-do list, I feel renewed energy and move forward with the strength and enthusiasm. In these moments and more, I discover grace anew. The scripture comes from John 1:16. From his fullness we have all received grace upon grace. Again, the affirmation, the grace of God is alive in me. My name is Linda, and I thank you all for joining us in worship today.
Thank you. Thank you, Linda.
If you refer to your order of service, our opening prayer is printed there. We can affirm that together. Unity Church of Boerne
Is a vibrant, loving, spiritual community, providing a sacred space for personal growth. We honor and celebrate the Christ in all people.
So today happens to be Celebration Sunday. So maybe you've had a birthday, an anniversary, a healing of some kind. You finally cleaned your house. I'll take almost anything. So I guess, we're used to all coming up front, but I guess we're gonna do it a little bit different. I guess we're just gonna, maybe you can raise your hand. You can stand or you don't have to. And sort of, we're gonna celebrate that way. We do have flowers for you, but you have to take one on the way out. Rick's already got one, so maybe he's got something to. Are you celebrating today?
Yeah, stand up.
Oh. Come on, there must be somebody else.
Chris?
No, one at a time.
One at a time.
Oh, one at a time. That's a good idea. I'm always celebrating just the joy and love of being here on earth for a short visit. It's turning out to be longer than I thought for me. But anyway, it's nice my mother's name was Grace. So it's nice to hear the daily reading. It was a great reminder for me in every way. But I'm so grateful that we've opened the church and able to get here today. It's interesting how it's over a year since we were here. And you get to fill in Sunday mornings in different ways. And now church is back. We transfer back to the church. That's what we're doing anyway. And I'm so grateful to be here. And so grateful to see you people. And I'm sure there'll be more and more coming as Sundays go on. Although we gotta do this. But because we not only live together, we even sleep together. So I guess we can sit together. No, I'm grateful just to be able to be here and stand up and tell you I'm grateful. And it's just wonderful to be here. And fortunately and unfortunately, we're going to be going away on the 19th of this month for 2.5 months, so we won't be around very long. Esther's mother is getting towards the last stages, and we want to be able to see her. before she passes on. So we're very grateful that we were able to get the vaccinations. And because this is a family thing, Germany will allow us to come in. We're not sure what all they'll do to us, but we have to be tested 48 hours before we leave and when we land and so on. Anyways, that's beside the point. We're grateful that we're able to go and do that. So all I want to say is I love the church. I love everybody that comes to it. And I think we're very, very lucky people to be here. Amen.
Anybody else? Really, I see you can do it right there if you'd like.
Okay.
Chris, you want to go?
The 5th of May, Cinco de Mayo, is the birthday of my youngest grandchild, my only granddaughter. Her name is Maya, and she's turning 10. So I'm grateful that I'm going to get to go see her. They're celebrating down on South Padre Island.
Oh.
So I'm going to drive down there and be with them for her birthday, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that I got through all of this pandemic without ever being ill. I'm grateful I got my vaccination finally, and I'm grateful to see all of you.
Anybody else? Sure.
Our 56th anniversary comes up this month,
Awesome.
Oh, boy.
and I guess I'm celebrating a little early. Just getting out and back to the church is very special to me.
Where were you married?
Lancaster, Texas,
Uh,
Dallas,
where did you meet?
Howard Payne at Brownwood.
Ah, very good, very good. Anybody else? Going once? I got one. Esther?
Okay, I'm very happy to be back and see, everybody in good health and spirit, and I'm grateful for many things, including, all the good things that happened in the last year, which put a little stop to our normal lives, but it also opened new doors for other things. And I'm very, very happy that we made it through, and still kept a lot of, well, not a lot, but social connections. That was very important. And I'm grateful that, we made it through, without getting sick. And I am grateful for the vaccinations that we got, and just to focus on, for me, was really what's important in life, and so it slowed everything down, but it gave me more focus, in many kind of healthy ways, and we did everything outdoors, which is, thanks God we have the climate to do that in, and we didn't have to be just cooped up in the house, for all this lockdown period. And one of the greatest gifts was when the lockdown started, we had just recently been to the Optimum Health Institute, and when we came back, the lockdown started. But while we were there, we met a young man from Australia who had intended to travel for 2 or 3 months before going back to Australia. And we met him at the Optimum Health Institute. Anyway, he landed at our house because I said, you have to come by before you go on the travels. And he did, and he stayed for 2 months, with us. And it was a really true gift. What a wonderful young man. He was only 28 years old, and he was like a little Buddha. We meditated together, we ate together, very healthy. We didn't drink any alcohol during this entire time. And we just had such a, kind of wonderful exchange. Anyway, we are still connected to him. He's back in Australia, and so we'll be connected for life. And anyway, so a lot of good things, and I'm grateful that my mother is still alive. And you know, she's kind of slowly phasing out and very thin and doesn't really talk much anymore. But I think her spirit is still there, the love, you know, it's just the love, you know, that remains. And I'm very grateful that I will have a chance to see her again before she transitions. And so we stayed for a little longer because I want to have enough time just in case, you know, things happen that I can be there for her. So life is good, and I'm glad to be back, and hope to see more of you.
All right, raise your hand at these fine people, wave your fingers and say, we honor your celebration.
We honor your celebration.
And we're assured the best is yet to come.
We're assured the best is yet to come.
We're doing the prayer requests a little differently. The box is, I think, back there. If you have any prayer requests that you would like to fill out on a small piece of paper or have us hold in this church or Silent Unity, please fill them out. And right now, I'm going to pray for them, give you time to write them if you haven't, or if you have, please, just as I said, put them in the box and they'll be prayed over. So together we know corporate prayer together is powerful. So if you join me. Oh, infinite presence, we give thanks that we're able to gather here today. And we know that there are cares and concerns on the hearts of many. First and foremost, we give thanks for the blessing of togetherness, for the many blessings that you have bestowed upon us and culminated in today. We affirm love and care to those who need it, to those whose journey seems fraught with peril or upset or negativity. May they realize your shining presence in their lives, your perfect peace which passes all understanding. And we hold ourselves in the light of the truth of our being. And we affirm that what we want and what we ask for is being given to us now. It is truly done unto us as we believe. We don't have to beg for any good thing. We know it is given. And we affirm our thankfulness about that right now. And so it is.
Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. I can feel His mighty power and His grace. There's a holy hush of angel wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. In the midst of His children, the Lord said He would be. It doesn't take very many. It can be just two or three. And I feel that same sweet spirit that I felt oft times before. Surely the presence right here as before. There's a holy hush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place.
Welcome home. It's wonderful to see each and every one of you in person, and I wish that I could hug you and do the things that we've done before, but we're making steps towards that now, and we're following what's right and helpful according to the health authorities. So let's just say this is a big treat to be together with you this morning. I'd like to talk to you this morning about the idea of living fearlessly, and then I changed some of it to be on pins and needles, and I realize that's not the best thing to say because it seems like there's anxiety involved in that. But it does speak to something that I'd like to talk about, a contradistinction between one feeling and two labels, fear and excitement. The same chemicals in our body that respond to the thoughts we have can produce, according to what we, or our dominant state of minds, are thinking. Fear, if we recognize a threat, or excitement, if we are looking towards doing something that makes us happy or something that thrills us. So we have one emotion in this, or rather one way of thinking with the idea of the force that produces these emotions, and we can use it the way we want. And in this past year, I think all of us have been challenged in ways that we couldn't have thought of on March the 8th. In fact, my last time speaking here was March the 1st, 2020. And it was as if the bottom dropped out of everything. And the news was continuously in almost a circumlocution of negativity about what was going on with this pandemic. And all of us had our understanding, I'm sure, stretched. And especially those on the spiritual path perhaps wondered. And we had this basic emotion we have, and sometimes it was turned more towards fear than the excitement of the joy of living that we all celebrate here. And this morning, I'd like to invite us to come back to, if we've moved, to that wonderful center that expects the best, knows the best, remembers the best, and reflects the best. We are still the answer to our questions, because the truth that we recognize inside ourselves, the Christ Jesus truth, still supplies the answers, no matter the pandemic or anything that we can imagine on this earth. The answers are already there. We don't have to beseech a reticent God to give us answers to what's going on. We only have to cut away those things inside ourselves that have placed misunderstanding where we should have had understanding. Now, I'm not pretending to say that I know the reason that this past year happened the way it did. I have some thoughts, and I've shared some ideas with different folks that were friends of mine in ministry, but nobody really knows. What we know is that we have a response, and we've learned certain responses physically. But I'd like to talk about the spiritual response we have to fear, and being able to turn that into an excitement about the future. Now, let's face it. Right now, it seems like this pandemic, at least in this country, is waning. We are beginning to take baby steps back together. We are gathering in small groups. We're sort of like emerging from almost a year-long cocoon of not being certain. And I think we should have great patience with ourselves. I think we should have patience with others. You know, I've seen, unfortunately, some situations in this pandemic where the folks on one side of an issue get offended by the other side, and then on top of the pandemic, we have misunderstandings and hurt feelings. It just seems like everything blows up. And I think what we have to do is bring ourselves back to the center and ask ourselves, since we live in our minds 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, what is it we want to experience? We don't have control over what's going on out there. We have sole and total control of what's going on in here. And when our thoughts align with the truth of our being, and we understand the message of the Master who said, "It is done unto you as you believe, and the kingdom of heaven is located within you." Not outside, not in a pandemic, not in the hospitals, although we thank God for the wonderful work they do. The kingdom of God is located inside the individuals in those places of mercy and grace. In the homes, in the workforce, it is each person reflecting the truth they understand. But we also have this thing called ego. And it is an accumulation of the thoughts and opinions that we have gathered over the years, the hurts, the things that I've talked about where we don't always forgive or we think we'll get round to it and do it at some point. That's the only thing that keeps spirit from coming through in a perfect way, is our own opinions about how things should be. In fact, one of the great metaphysicians that I ever heard was a man by the name of Vernon Howard, who said the most difficult problem of humanity is the pounding, persistent I thought. That I that collects grievances, hurts, believes in limits, looks at it with a human eye into situations that really require a spiritual eye. So what can we do for ourselves to be loving and patient as we emerge from this time? How can we build a better us? You, me. What's going to happen out there will happen, but it will be affected greatly by us centering ourselves and, as I say, returning to our default setting, what we felt before this all happened. I think every one of us has felt that perhaps our very spiritual ideals may have been a little shaken during this. What does it mean? When I decided what I was going to speak about this morning, and I gave a lot of thought to it, the one thing that was uppermost in my mind was the idea that what could I impart to you that had been part of my journey through this as I applied the truth of what I knew to this situation. And one of the things that I realized that there were places in me where I felt at times off-centered about the way our country was divided, about the way some of my fundamentalist brothers and sisters were taking the Christ Jesus message and perhaps turning it to their advantage for a political reason. It wasn't something that I overtly resented. It was just something that was in my mind, and it had been there prior to this pandemic. I think we all remember the great divide that we had socially, economically, racially, that preceded this pandemic. If one has something to do with the other, I don't know. I just think the timing is interesting. Severe division, in a way we've never been really since the Civil War that I know of, through my study of history and what I learned. And I'm no expert, but it seemed like it was the worst divide. And then we have this, which teaches us, oddly enough, to look out after one another. We're wearing masks and we're social distancing. We're forced, if you've noticed, to look after one another. What if it was possible to do that without there being a pandemic? What if there was somewhere somebody said we're going to have a national day of looking out after each other. No, not physically, but I mean prayerfully, and perhaps being led to give or to do something out of the ordinary, something that pulls us together. I've said that technology is a wonderful thing, but it has isolated us in so many ways. We sit behind a computer at home and we sometimes have limited interaction, and boy, have we had limited interaction this past year. So I think one of the lessons to learn from this is to reevaluate our inner relationship with ourselves, because from that will proceed the way we treat everyone that crosses our path. As this particular pandemic begins to wane, at least in this country, we have the opportunity to say, I'd like to chart a different course or a new course or a better course of understanding from here on out. And the way that that always begins is in here. It's done unto us as we believe. And living fearlessly, as I see it, doesn't mean that we're full of bravado and braggadocio and these types of things. It means a calm, centered recognition of the divine source of our being. And people say, well, where is that? Where do I find that? What are you really talking about? I'm talking about when you close your eyes and you take a deep breath and you stand to the truth inside you and you ask yourself a question, perhaps. I want to know the truth about you. I want to hear what you're about. These questions that we ask ourselves in light of the truth of our being that shines all the time in various differing ways. I believe that when we ask with sincerity for Spirit to show us where we can come up higher and be better and do more and just become a better version of ourselves, I believe we get answers. But sometimes we don't necessarily like the answers because they chafe at what I just said, the pounding, persistent I thought, the ego of us that says, I know best. But if we knew best, then our lives would be one continuous joy after another. And that's wonderful to affirm, but we all know that we all have issues to face. We're all on this planet learning about who we are. I hope we don't forget whose we are in the bargain. This situation right now gives us a perfect opportunity to go inside ourselves and ask ourselves the questions that I just mentioned. How can I be a better version of me? You know, when this pandemic first began, I made a decision to treat it as I would a red light, and I've talked to some of you all about that. I wasn't about to live in fear of this. I decided to show the pandemic, this virus, whatever you want to call it, the same attention that I would give a red light or a stop sign. I know it's there, and when I have to, I stop, but then I go. I don't remain at that red light. I don't remain at that stop sign, hands on the wheel, in terror. It is something to be informed about. It is something to do what, as I've said, what the authorities have said, the health authorities have said, for our best, but it is not something to push us into ways of being different than we are. Different in the way that I mean full of fear and anxiety and upset. So today, perhaps you could realize that as you adjust yourself, your own mental thermostat inside, as you adjust that, you could allow a different thought to come through. If you've been thinking judgmental or angry thoughts about this pandemic, and I know at times I have, one of the things that you can do is forgive yourself on the spot. There is no time in Spirit. There is only the opportunity to choose once again. Course in Miracles says that very clearly. You choose once again. As a matter of fact, I've heard it said by one of the, and I'm trying to remember exactly who the fellow was, I think it was Ed Rabel, a wonderful Unity minister, who said, metaphysics is useless without forgiveness. We have to live in a state of forgiveness of ourselves and others constantly. Because when we don't, we're already gathering all those things towards us again. We have to release, we have to let go, we have to forgive, because it is the right thing for us, it is the healthy thing for us, and any unforgiveness we know blocks the impulse of new thought and blocks us from being all we can be. So I would say to live fearlessly is to forgive yourself fearlessly, radically. No matter what has happened in this past year, no matter what judgments you have made, no matter what you've gone through, you give yourself a chance to reset. After all, I think if one thing we could say about this pandemic, it has given us an opportunity to reset in a corporate way. My job is to talk about it in a personal way. As I say, what's going to happen out there will happen. But when we present ourselves in the best possible light through the truth that we are, through the forgiveness we've given ourselves and others, through taking the opportunity to reset ourselves right now, we are building a world that's going to work and work for everybody. It's not that I'm a dreamy-eyed idealist. It's just that, well, I am a dreamy-eyed idealist. I believe in the inherent goodness of who we are. I don't believe that we are all our stories. I don't believe we're all this negativity. I don't believe the things that people point fingers at each other and say, you are this or you are that. You are what you choose to be. You are what your dominant thoughts are. And most especially, you are what you're able to forgive and understand. Understand about yourself and understand about others. And that's what Christ Jesus gave when he walked this earth. People in his presence were healed because I like to believe he understood them. The love that he radiated from his countenance and from himself was a healing and potent healing force to those in his presence. As a matter of fact, we know in the scripture rendering that a woman even touched the hem of his garment and was healed. I like to think that she was stimulated in her own belief and her own best concept of herself to change, to make a difference just by being in the presence. We know how it can be in somebody's presence. We know when we're in the presence of a nervous, angry, upset, fearful person. We also know when we're in the presence of one who walks with calm, serene certitude, knowing that God goes with them in every step. It's really what you realize. It's not begging a reticent deity. It is accepting what is already given. And I believe the way to do that, the first step to do that, is to live in forgiveness. When this began, I made a decision for Unity of Boerne that I wanted the love that was this place to expand. I wanted everyone to be able to see what we were about, even though we weren't able to congregate. And so it'll be nearly a year, I conceived the idea and got some wonderful assistance with a person that you know very well here, Bertie Schoffer. The idea of a group called Pathlighters. Pathlighters is an online meditation group that meets once a week. Some of you I've seen there, and some of you have yet to come. It's obviously voluntary. But the reason I talk about it is because I have seen people who have attended Pathlighters being blessed and saying that this is their church. This is what they want to be a part of, even when their church is reassembled. So one thing I've learned about this current situation is that church will be somewhat different in the future. We're going to see online gatherings. That's going to be part of it. And some people have asked me if I intend to continue this Pathlighters ministry. Yes, indeed, from now on out, because that's the way some folks are getting their church, so to speak. So I already see the opportunities for growth, but the idea for folks to be able to come together in what is a safe and online place and hold an individual and collective meditation for their inner harmony and for world harmony has been wonderful. Unity of Boerne has done some wonderful things during this situation. We have not constricted, we have grown. And to those of you who've been a part of that, who've helped, who've prayed, who've given of your time and treasure, I thank you so much. And for those who haven't been part of it, I invite you to be a part of it. It is truly wonderful and magnificent to see the growth that has occurred. Our Sunday night book study at 7 o'clock, I invite you to be part of that. We'll be going back to our, our 9:30 book study in the future, but I'm not so sure we're going to give up the one at 7 o'clock. So you see, what I'm saying is when you have the seed and you walk, you're walking and you're laying something behind you, you never know what's going to sprout up and flourish and take wing. I'm very, very happy with that. So as we enter this new phase of our lives, this new time, and we're doing it optimistically, we're seeing that, as we said, we're seeing first small steps of regathering and recongregating and life towards normal. As we do that, I encourage us to get a bigger conception of who we are, a bigger conception of what we're about here in this church. Some of you I haven't talked to in a long time. Some of you I've talked to on a semi-regular basis. The fact of the matter is we're all in this together, and we can build our church and build our community by building ourselves. What is it that we need to do? What is it that we need to have? And what is it that we need, most importantly, to think, to become all that we can be? You see, it really is an inside job. We live inside ourselves. And so when we straighten that out, when we forgive ourselves and others, when we hold the highest intention and the best that we can think of, we're already tuning in to the God presence inside ourselves. You know, in the scripture it says where 2 or 3 are gathered together, there I am in the midst also. I don't think that's only about prayer. I think that talks about the attractor factor between folks. I believe that God's presence is with all of us, whether we are together in 3s or 4s or 100s. It's a matter of our recognition of it, a matter of us aligning with what we want to be. There is nothing, absolutely nothing, that you have to do to be worthy of this besides a change of your mind, to choose, once again, to choose another thought about yourself. And when you do that, and when you think the thoughts that God thinks about you, you are going to live higher and better, even in the midst of a world that is taking small steps towards returning to normal. You can return to that self in you, that though it may have been shaken this year, and though you may have had many questions, and you may have your spirituality, your faith may have been tried and questioned in a very difficult way, you are able to say, while I don't understand this now, I understand my reactions, and I'm going to act in a loving way to myself. And when I do that, I can't help but do it to everyone else that crosses my path. My prayer for each one of you this morning is that you have this bigger, bolder, grander vision of living fearlessly and living in a way that you may not have thought of in the past. Perhaps one thing different for yourself and one thing different that you give to others. We literally pay it forward by the thoughts we think. You know, we can pay gifts forward, but we're paying it forward constantly by the thoughts we tune into and choose to entertain. I'm saying, let's walk a little higher. Not that I'm being judgmental of any of you or myself, but I always think that there is room for us to come up higher. Because, as it said, life can be so daily. And sometimes we are shown another way to look at life that is not necessarily one of our choosing. We hear the media telling us what to think and what to buy and what to believe. We have friends that do it. We have the non-friends that do it. It assaults us in the media. It assaults us in technology. It's like there's a conspiracy against us owning ourselves. Well, I don't know about you, but what I want to be owned by is the spirit of truth inside me and the love and forgiveness that I'm here to represent and that I'm here to give to each one who crosses my path. I'm here to say that I believe Unity of Boerne best days are ahead of us. And I'm so honored and love so much being a part of it. And what we've done in the past year, as I say, I believe it has borne fruit and will continue to do so. I invite all of you to be a part of it. And as you do, think about the thing that is the highest and best thought, the thing that just excites you about yourself and about this community of faith. It won't be long, I believe, before we'll be out the doors and we'll have many, many people that have yet to cross our paths that will be here. And what are we going to show them and what are we going to do? I've said Unity of Boerne is the house that love built, an oasis of love in the Texas Hill Country. I want us to remember that about ourselves because what we think about expands. So what we're thinking, when we choose the best thoughts, we know they'll expand into something grander and better than we are right now. We have patience with ourselves, we forgive ourselves, we love ourselves, and we bless ourselves for any misunderstandings we may have had this past year. I think that's a good start as we begin to get our sea legs throughout this. And know that as you do, I am behind you. I am behind this effort 100%. Unity of Boerne is a vibrant, loving, spiritual community. And I see it in your faces this morning. And I know we're going to see more of that in the ensuing months and years. I am excited. And I invite you, drop the fear. I don't mean drop the concern. We keep our eyes on what is the health authorities tell us, because we're using our common sense, and we know that they're also led by Spirit. But let's get a bigger idea of what we can be. And let's let this old encrusted ideas about ourselves and others fall away and be lit up by the light that we are. The Master said, "You are the light of the world, salt of the earth, and that the kingdom is within you." What more power, what more presence could you expect than that? God bless each and every one of you, and I declare it is so. Excuse me. I'm so used to doing this at home or at the waterfall. You all probably seen the messages that I've had to do at different locations. So I'm also learning too. We're going to have a little moment of meditation right now. So I invite you to take a deep breath or two. Sometimes we find it works better with our eyes closed. Sometimes we have our eyes open, whatever's most comfortable. Just be aware of where you are. You are a point of presence. God is expressing itself where you are right now. And knowing that we are the aperture through which Spirit expresses, we allow ourselves to release that which is unlike what we want to experience. We feel calm in this moment. We feel the Spirit recreating us. And as we're aware of this presence, we take the healing that we need, whether it's in our body or our mind. The love that flows through us, that takes care of our bodies without our thinking, conscious thoughts. We take that spirit, that cooperation, that harmony, and place it in our bodies and minds where we need it. If we take another deep breath, we're aware that this moment is new. That we get an opportunity to choose what we would be, how we would express. Going deeper into relaxation, we realize that what we really need to heal is any thought that said we were separate from our source. Feeling one with our source and the presence and the power. Feeling one with this, we are strengthened. And we're able to let go of things that no longer work for us. Whatever negativities we have accrued, whatever judgments we may have collected, whatever grievances we may have are melted in the presence of the warmth of the light of the God presence inside us. We release fear and claim excitement at the possibility and the possibilities that lie in front of us. What lies before us is nothing compared to what lies within us, because we live in our mind's truth. We carry the greatest presence of all, that understands all, that forgives all, and that loves all. we radiate the abundant life that is promised to us. And we know that in quietness and confidence is our strength. Taking another deep breath, we are enlightened by the presence of love that is with us right now. And we walk into our good, into the excitement of new ways for new days. And we release the burden of fear and its attendant negativities. We give thanks for this moment of recreation. And we carry it with us into the week before us. We are healed. We are loved. And now as we return our attention to the present, we notice we feel lighter and better. We have a new concept of ourselves. We're standing tall on the inside. As we celebrate the truth, love is who we are. And we radiate that inside ourselves and to others. So it is. One of the things that we've endured this year as a church that is not just unique to us, but I think with all other churches, is we have had a decline in giving. And I think that some folks thought because we had a pandemic that our church stopped, but actually it goes on. We have obligations to meet, and we have sprouted our wings in different ways in our ministry. And I would invite you this morning to give the best give that you are able, knowing that when you do, you are blessed beyond measure. It says, when you give, shall be given to you, pressed down, shaken, running over, in Malachi 3. I would ask that those who are viewing and who receive something from our online presence, that you would remember us in your tithes, in your gifts. I always say that even if you have nothing to give, you can picture something that you're thankful for and that you'd like to see more of in your life. But I do ask that no gift is too small, that you would remember Unity of Boerne. We are Our address is Unity of Boerne, P.O. Box 1973, Boerne, Texas 78006. Again, that's P.O. Box 1973, Boerne, Texas 78006. And if you have your gift, or you can visualize it in your hand, I invite you to take your hands, place them together like this, and know that what you give your attention to and what you give your treasure to, what you give thought to, expands. It is a basic law of the universe. So together with me, we repeat, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, and I send it forth with my blessings and my love. God bless you, and thank you for remembering Unity of Boerne.
Freely, freely I have received. Freely, freely I give. Divine love through me blesses all that I am, all that I give and receive. All that I give and receive.
As you go forth this week, know you are the light of the world, you are the salt of the earth, you are the pure presence of the divine. May you have a week that is richly blessed.
Love can build a bridge between your heart and mine. Love can build a bridge. Don't you think it's time? Don't you think it's time?
This time we usually do the peace song, but we can think about it in our minds and sing it in our minds, in our remembrance. I know the time is coming that we'll be able to do
Let there be peace on earth and let it begin to be. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. To take as we are, family all are we. Let me walk with my mother in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me.
Together we say, the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us,